Arthur, my boss said flatly, after 19 years, we're eliminating your position. Please clean out your desk by the end of the day. My name is Arthur Wells. I'm 49 years old, and until that Monday morning, I was the senior digital archivist at Kronos Pictures. For almost 2 decades, I had been the memory of this studio, its digital backbone. From the dial-up days to cloud migration, I had outlasted 3 different CEOs, but I always stayed. I trained every new intern, recovered every lost clip, and worked through weekends and holidays without asking for a promotion or a pat on the back. So when Marcus, the young and ambitious head of content strategy, called me into his office and I saw Diane from HR already seated, I knew before he even opened his mouth. The air had changed weeks ago. I understand completely, I said, nodding calmly. I walked out without another word. No anger, no pleading, just quiet acknowledgement. Back at my desk, I watched the younger employees glance my way, then quickly look down at their screens. News travels fast. Most of them were content creators I had trained myself. Good kids, but they had no idea what was actually built into our archives or how the older cataloging systems worked. None of them could navigate the custom software I'd written or the admin credentials buried 3 layers deep in every system. I began to pack my personal items methodically. The family photo, the coffee mug my son made in high school, the small cactus that had somehow survived 19 years under fluorescent lighting. Chloe from the art department stopped by, her face tight with concern. Arthur, I just heard. This is madness. You practically built this place with your own hands. I shrugged. Companies change direction, Chloe. Her voice was rising, drawing attention. But without any warning, after everything you've done. It's fine, I said quietly. Really, of course, it wasn't fine. But I wasn't going to make a scene. As I was leaving, Marcus stepped out of his office to watch me go. No goodbye, no handshake, just surveillance to make sure I actually left. What none of them had bothered to pay attention to over the years was that I had become the most critical person in the entire building, not because I was exceptional, but because I was thorough. I documented everything. I had set up secure audit protocols years ago at the request of the legal team during a past scandal, and I had copies in my car. I sat for a moment, looking back at the massive studio building where I'd spent most of my adult life. The security badge I'd just surrendered had been renewed 18 times. I started the engine and drove home. They had no idea. Wednesday was going to be fun. I had been with Kronos since it was just a small office. I started when my son Leo was in kindergarten. Now he was finishing his master's degree. The company grew, and I grew with it. I turned down offers from competitors because loyalty mattered to me. My wife, Helen, used to joke that the studio's film vaults are your second family. She wasn't entirely wrong. I knew every system, every workaround, every backdoor solution to problems the executives didn't even know existed. Marcus became my boss 5 years ago. He was a young, ambitious type who called our department content assets instead of people. He had ideas about efficiency and digital transformation buzzwords that usually meant doing more with less. 6 months ago, he brought in a consultant named Leo Klein. Expensive suit, confident handshake. They would huddle in conference rooms, speaking in whispers. 3 months ago, I noticed my administrative permissions being quietly modified. I could have protested, but I didn't. I just watched and documented. That night, Helen said, "You seem distracted lately. Is everything okay at work?" "Just changes," I said. Nothing I haven't seen before. But these changes felt different. Then I found it. A company-wide memo about modernization initiatives that had never been shared with me. It outlined a complete restructuring of the department under new leadership Leo Klein. My position wasn't even on the organizational chart. That same day, I discovered something else. While running one of those routine security scans no one else bothered with anymore, I noticed an unusual pattern in our royalty payment software. Regular transfers to a vendor I didn't recognize, Azure Arts Collective. The address led to a mailbox service. The authorized payments were signed off by our CFO, Alistair Finch. I didn't say anything. I just noted it, copied the records, and continued watching. Sometimes the quiet man in the corner sees everything, precisely because everyone thinks he sees nothing. The morning after I was let go, I sat in my home office. No alarm had woken me. No commute awaited. Just silence. Helen brought me a coffee and placed it beside me without a word. After 20 years of marriage, she knew when I needed space. After she left, I unlocked the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out an encrypted hard drive. It was a backup system the legal team had approved for a disaster recovery plan years ago, and then promptly forgotten. I plugged it in and began reviewing the files. The full history of payments to Azure Arts Collective was there. Nearly $1.8 million over 18 months. The approval chain led directly to our CFO, Alistair Finch. I dug a little deeper. The listed owner of Azure Arts Collective was Thomas Finch. A quick social media search confirmed my suspicion. Alistair's brother-in-law. They were siphoning company funds through fake restoration services. I leaned back in my chair. It wasn't anger I felt, but something colder, more focused. For 19 years, I had solved problems, repaired systems, and protected data, and they had discarded me like an outdated piece of hardware. My phone buzzed with a text from my intern, Ben. Just heard, Arthur. That's total BS. Klein is already moving into your old office. Now all the pieces fit. Marcus and Alistair needed me gone before their scheme could be discovered. They probably thought the evidence would disappear with me. I opened my email and began drafting a message to the board of directors. Then I stopped. My finger hovered over the send button. To direct, to easily dismissed as the bitter accusations of a fired employee. I needed leverage, precision, a way to expose this fraud that could not be ignored or covered up. I deleted the draft and started making plans. Tomorrow was Wednesday, board meeting day. Quarterly financials would be presented. Bonuses would be approved. Perfect timing. For the first time since yesterday, I smiled. On Wednesday morning, I sat in my car, watching the studio. At exactly 9:15 a.m., I made my first move. I sent an email to Marcus with the subject line, "Financial irregularities, urgent review needed." I included a basic summary of what I'd found regarding the Azure payments, but left out the brother-in-law connection. At 9:45, my phone rang. Marcus's number. I let it go to voicemail. His message was tense. "Arthur, we need to discuss your email immediately. Call me back." I didn't. Instead, I went to a coffee shop. At 10:30, an email arrived from Diane in HR. "Mr. Wells, the communication we received from you potentially violates your separation agreement. Please cease all contact." They were trying to silence me with threats, but I hadn't signed any separation agreement. At 3 p.m., my home phone rang, a number I hadn't used for business in years. I picked up, but said nothing. "Arthur," it was Alistair Finch. His voice was steady, controlled. "We should talk about your concerns. I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Is that what you call it?" I asked. "Look," he said, "why don't we meet tomorrow? Just you and me. We can clear this up." "Sorry, I'm busy tomorrow," I said. "Besides, I think the board might be very interested in Azure Arts Collective and your brother-in-law." That sharp intake of breath on the phone told me everything. "You're making a big mistake," he said finally. "We can make this right. A generous severance, references, whatever you need." "Goodbye, Alistair," I said, and hung up. Within 10 minutes, a new email arrived from Diane. My severance package had suddenly doubled. They still thought they were dealing with a simple extortion attempt. They had no idea what was coming. Thursday brought clarity. The Azure scheme wasn't Alistair's first project. 3 years ago, there was another consulting firm, Shadowbox Productions. Different name, same game. Inflated invoices. This company was registered to Alistair's wife. Marcus hadn't just been aware. He had helped facilitate these arrangements in exchange for budget increases for his department. Leo Klein's real role wasn't to modernize it. It was to eliminate the one person who might notice the financial patterns. Me. I gathered everything into a comprehensive report. Spreadsheets, business registrations, email exchanges. Then I did something they wouldn't expect. I contacted Isabella Rossi, a semi-retired board member I had worked with years ago, a woman who genuinely cared about the studio's legacy. An hour later, we sat in a quiet park. I handed her a sealed envelope. "Everything is in there," I said. "I'm not looking for my job back. I'm not looking for money. I just want the right people to know." Isabella studied me. "Why come to me?" "Because you actually read the audit reports," I said. "I've watched you in meetings. You ask questions." She nodded, pocketing the envelope. "There's an emergency board session tomorrow. If this checks out, there will be serious consequences. I'm counting on it," I said. That night, using credentials that should have been revoked, but weren't. Sloppy transition. I accessed the company's email server one last time. I scheduled a message to be delivered to every board member at 8 a.m. the next morning. Subject: before you approve Q2 bonuses, read this. Attached was my full report. Friday morning dawned clear and bright. I sat on my porch with coffee. At precisely 8 a.m., my scheduled email delivered its payload. By 9:32, Ben texted, "Police are here. They're questioning Alistair and Marcus in conference rooms." Klein looked sick. "What did you do?" I didn't respond. The wheels were turning exactly as I'd anticipated. At 10 a.m., Kronos's general counsel called. I answered this one. "Mr. Wells, we need you to come in immediately to discuss information you've provided to the board." "I'm available by phone," I replied calmly. "Everything I know is in that report. Everything I have is already backed up in multiple secure locations. If anything happens to me or my family, additional copies go to the SEC, the IRS, and 3 news outlets." The silence on the other end was priceless. "Mr. Wells," she finally said, "the board is taking this extremely seriously. They've already placed several executives on administrative leave." "I have cooperated fully," I said. "My part is done." Later that day, Isabella called. "It's a bloodbath here," she said. "Alistair confessed once we confronted him with your evidence. They've diverted at least $4.5 million, maybe more." She paused. "The board wants to talk to you, Arthur, about coming back. Not to your old position. They're creating a new director of asset integrity role, reporting directly to the board." I had anticipated this, but it was still surprising. "I'll think about it," I said. 6 months later, I sat in my new corner office. The view overlooked the entire studio lot, a daily reminder of how much had changed. Alistair Wilcox had pleaded guilty. Marcus was fighting the charges. Leo Klein had fled to a country with no extradition treaty. My old team now reported to me, though I'd promoted Ben to run day-to-day operations. The kid had potential. A knock at my door drew my attention. Helen stood there, smiling. "Ready for lunch?" she asked. As we walked through the department, conversations quieted, not from fear, but from respect. These people knew what had happened, knew I could have destroyed the company instead of saving it. In the elevator, Helen squeezed my hand. "Are you happy?" I considered the question. The anger that had driven me was gone. What remained wasn't exactly happiness, more like satisfaction. Completion. "I'm good," I said. Outside, the sun warmed our faces. My phone buzzed with a message from Isabella Rossi. "Board approved your security budget increase. Unanimous vote." I smiled slightly. No arguments, no questions, just trust. Helen noticed my expression. "What is it?" "Nothing," I said, sliding the phone back into my pocket. "Just thinking about bridges. Some collapse under their own weight. Others, once repaired, become stronger than they ever were before. I'd built this one right this time.